What's going on, everybody? Welcoming you into a very special episode of Real Ones. And I am so pleased to be joined by Isiah, aka ThoughtPoet. Been putting in all sorts of work, whether it's activism, whether it's photography, artist development, and I know that you have so many stories to tell. Interview has been quite a while in the making, so I'm super excited to sit down and chat with you, man. We finally got all the pieces together.
Yeah, I'm honored to be here, bro. For real. So thank you for having me.
I kind of want to start, chronologically of Hebrew Brantley, right, was your art teacher at some point, in grade school or high school or whatever. But in terms of thinking of wanting to be a creative and have that be there for you as a career, I imagine that was a pretty foundational point.
Man, what's funny is I was actually like a typical CPS kid, so I didn't listen to shit he said or nothing he told me at the time.
Where'd you go to high school?
So I went to Harlan on 95th in Michigan. So if you from Chicago, it's it's not the best high school, but it's not the worst. And it was completely on the outside looking in when it came to me getting into this music scene. So Hebrew Brantley being my art teacher, that was just when I met Vic Spencer for the first time. You know what I'm saying? And so when I got into this scene around 2011, 2012, those were some of the things that guided me as far as even figuring out, how the music scene even was ran back then. And it's from then till now, the progression is just really crazy, bro. For real.
We were kind of speaking on just who's stuck around, who's maybe dropped out, who's moved away. But, as far as the artists that you kind of really came up with and got incorporated with, who of those are you kind of still in touch with?
Yeah, man. So you got Freddie Oso, who's an OG to so many of these artists in Chicago. You have Shanae Mosley, who works with Zero Fatigue, Smino, his people. You have Shai Tulani, who actually just opened up for Skip Marley. You have Stock Marley, who actually works with Mick Jenkins' Free Nation crew.
Yep.
Bro, the list goes on. It's so many different folks. You have Jazz Star, you have Laura Haiti, Liv Risco, you know what I mean? You have Really Victoria, Rest in Power, Tierra D. Shanae. And I can clearly keep going. And it's I think that's the point is this scene, it's so many artists in this scene that people know about, and there's so much about this city's music that people don't know about. And when I came into this community, I was more of a journalist, and I was running a website called the Lyrical Lab. And so when people think about Lyrical Lemonade, it's no, Lyrical Lab was actually here first. And so a lot of people remember that, we were bringing people up to speed on Chance the Rapper, Lily K, Tink, Martin Sky, Femdot, St. Millie. We were talking about all these artists back in the day, and it was really because we were just black and brown kids that really loved, this city's music. This is the energy that we're coming from. You know what I'm saying? So when individuals like Brother Mike, rest in power, and he passed, that had a real huge effect on artists like Saba, No Name, Jean Doe, you know what I'm saying, myself, you know what I'm saying, when Squeak Pivot passed, you know what I'm saying, that had a huge impact on us. And I think what's interesting is all of these artists were there 2012, 2010, you know what I'm saying, going to these open mics, going to these, events that was hosted by Ruby Hornet and Fake Shore Drive back in the day. And that's just it, they're still here, you know what I'm saying, their parents, a lot of them, you know what I'm saying, left and came back, you know what I mean? But they've always been consistent about the artistry.
So what do you feel has made you stick around this long?
That's
a big question.
That is the big question, isn't it? To be honest with you, I think it was, for me, a matter of just being in the space all the time, right? And so being a fan of this art, but also realizing I was becoming a historian or a documenter, and I didn't even really think about it like that. I never thought about it like that until 2020, where, these stories and these experiences I had, people were oh man, this is a lot. This is a lot of information you have. I was more so thinking about it this was a typical night with the homies. You know what I'm saying? This was a night of me going out and, going to different events and, just happened to be in a place where history was taking place. And it's when we think about New York and Cali and Miami and all these other spaces, the artistry community, the hip hop community, all these communities are embedded in one. and they're helping each other like get their art off and get their shit off. And so, you know, for me, I've always known Chicago has been a space of like we don't support each other as far as artistry, right? And I've always hated that just because it's like if Chicago artists were to support each other, like truly, truly support each other with resources, with, you know, just really being there for one another, there would be never again a conversation about how Chicago isn't one of the most influential cities when it comes to artistry and how it's being executed. There aren't a lot of people like me in this city that are going to give you Black Chicago stories that truly tells you how artists and how different things came to be. And so for me, I don't take that lightly. 5 years from now, 2 years from now, this history needs to be told, and we need people to do it. When we started the Lyrical Lab, it was really just about letting people know where we were coming from and the music that we were listening to. Because we originally had a radio show on Power 92, and we were called The Takeover. And so we were actually the first radio show that broke Chance the Rapper, Kimbe X, and Alex Wiley onto Chicago radio.
Wow.
And so from there, you know what I'm saying, we got like a trademark infringement because somebody overseas was like, that's our show name. So we was like, shit. So we rebranded, and that's how the Lyrical Lab came. And so again, for us, it was like looking at the Fake Sure Drives and the Ruby Hornets. And again, no shade to nobody. They just weren't covering Chicago music like we were. You know what I'm saying? Like we were kids and we were in it. So, you know what I'm saying? When we told you that Pivot Gang had next, we weren't bullshitting. Like we could tell you that Joseph Chilliams was cold just because like we're seeing him perform B2K live and seeing how like people are gravitating to it. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, it was really just like capturing that energy.
This was kind of a time where, you know, the blog era was at a real like peak, and you did have blogs, right, like Ruby Hornet and Fake Shore Drive, and like that was genuinely the way that people heard about music. And that was like almost another departure from like radio and, you know, TV, like airplay and stuff like that, and sync stuff being the only way you heard about new music. So do you still have like those blog posts up? Like, I know it costs a little bit to maintain a website, but those are like, you know, really historic when you think about it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because funny enough, we had to do a whole process to get the rights for that content, right? Lyrical Lab, you know, we were, you know, right along, like I said, the Fake Sure Drives, the Pursuits of Dopeness, all those type of blogs. We had our first showcase, and we had all the Pivot Gang. We had No Name. I don't know if you know A-Dot. We had Rapper Chicks, which consisted of Psalm 1. I'm blanking on their name now.
I definitely know Psalm 1.
Yeah, so like these were like legendary acts. And so the only thing that stopped us at the time was we had the venue at the Southside YMCA on Stony Island. Yeah. And this was before it was cool to do shows out south. Like people were still scared to go out south to go to a show. You know what I'm saying? So like you damn near had to go to a Reggie's or some like little bar in the hole in the wall up north, you know what I'm saying, to like curate your shows and shit. And so from that, you know, we did the show, it broke even, and my bosses was like, yeah, this ain't making real money, so we just gonna put it on ice. And I begged them, I'm like, yo, don't put it on ice. I'm begging you, please just like cause I think they were giving me like a monthly stipend or something to run it. And I was like, yo, I'll do this for free, bro. Like and I was already doing
That's
it for
how
free.
much you cared.
You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, they did what they did, you know, and you know, Lyrical Lemonade did what they did. And for me, I was in a space of like, this is like the city needs this. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember having conversations with Freshwaters and Squeak Pivot, and them literally telling me like, bro, like you were here first. The posts are still there, and so we rebranded all of that into what we're calling Social Aesthetics, which is a creative digital storytelling collective. Like those posts are so historic, and it's like my business partner, we've been doing everything we can to go into next year, really letting people see like, you know, what it is that we worked on and what we're about to bring into the new year.
I think I came across your name like for the first time probably with like some of the photography you've done for the Reader.
Appreciate it.
You were highlighted in a Southside Weekly article spotlighting a few activists in the summer of 2020, and then you continued to do your writing here and there as well. But You know, so what's the do you feel like you identify yourself with a certain one of those more than anything, or is it kind of just all parts of the whole?
It's funny because when people actually ask me what I do,
I have trouble with that question too. I can say what my day job is, but you know, it's like
people legit be like,
it's more to the puzzle.
They're like, he take photos. Like, no, he writes something. No, he do something. But it's like, we know when we work with him, we get all that and then some, right? And so that's literally been for me, you know, being able to like build into different things. Like, again, when I worked with True Star magazine, which was ran by 2 black women, they taught us how to then be little A&Rs, you know what I'm saying? So they taught us how to do radio, how to do marketing, how to curate events, how to do blogging. Like, they taught us all of this shit, and we were in elementary school and high school.
Wow.
You know
I couldn't imagine being exposed to that type of knowledge at that early age.
We were, it was funny.
Could have been unstoppable.
That's the part where, like, for me, I truly try to remember who I am and remember just how much I've done. Cause like, I was like 18, 19 when I first got my interviews with KRS-One and Raekwon from Wu-Tang. You know what I'm saying? And that was from Brianna from Swank PR.
Shouts out Brianna.
Position. Like, real talk though. You know what I'm saying? And it's
I'll tell you, like 10 years later, after that, maybe even like 15, Brianna was the first publicist to ever pitch the show and say, here's an artist, I want them on Real Ones. She was like really willing to emphasize the small platforms. And she just did her Purple Block Party Festival back in August.
Jim Jones from Dipset. And that's what I'm saying.
Were you at that?
I was not. Unfortunately, my dad had passed. And so
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
I appreciate it. But like, Brianna was one of the, she's one of the very few people that, you know what I'm saying, when I hit her up, even to this day, she'll be like, yo, like, let's have a conversation, because she knows
she's rock solid.
You know what I mean? Like, and she knows my heart is in this art shit when it comes to this city. So it's like, you know, I'm not finna bring her anything that's like, you know, not quality. And so going back to your question, realizing like, you know, I was coming from the journalism, and then when the Lyrical Lab was put on hiatus, like, I really rebranded and started doing my photography more. Yeah. Because I was raised around photography. My grandma was woke and artsy before it was cool to be that. So like, she had my nose in the Gordon Parks book when I was a kid. Man. You know what I'm saying? So like, when I again rebranded, I was like, you know what, let me really take my photos seriously. And that's when people was like, what is he doing? Like, what exactly is he doing? And like, best example I can give you of that is this year when I helped Mother Nature and Renzel put together their project Nature's World. Yep. And we did the project, and we did a documentary explaining the last 10 years of Chicago music and how their influence and Renzel's influence and the influence of them people help create what's about to happen in Chicago right now. And in doing that, they were just like, yo, like, you do way more than just photos. And I'm like, half the time I don't even broadcast like, yo, like, I can help you with your project. Right, I know how to, you know, help you like get your music where it needs to be. Or like, I normally don't broadcast these things because it's like, I'm just building, you know what I'm saying? I'm just creating. And it's like, it's been something that I've realized that I need to like talk more about.
When you, it's like, it's almost unfortunate that like being humble isn't rewarded with money or anything like that. You know, just thinking about like really having to actually advertise yourself and like, I can do all of this, and like somebody should like run me a check for it. But at the same time, you know, when you're working with people that are just like, you know, family like that and want to see you succeed and you vice versa, you know, it can be a little difficult to, it's difficult to have those conversations sometimes.
And I think real talk, I've had to really understand that for myself as a creative. Because in 2020, I had the Levi Clothing Company steal some of my photos for an international clothing campaign.
Did you get your proper credit and everything?
Man, they cut me a check within an hour, and I had a real conversation with them because I was like, yo, and mind you, this was again in the height of the George Floyd riots in Chicago. So like, you know, the photos they used wasn't even photos from 2020. These were photos from 5 years ago of different protests that had taken place on 95th and Michigan at Chicago State University when they were trying to save the institution. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, it's like, okay, so you can see the significance and you know the history behind these pieces. You know what I mean? So it's like, why you can't acknowledge the motherfuckers that do this shit? And it's like, it really started to make me understand, like, you know, Chicago as a whole, that's kind of how the world does us. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, we can be acknowledged, but we don't get acknowledged for everything that we're truly influencing. And it's like, for me, knowing that I do so many things, it's like, I want to make sure people understand, like, all of these things are to better what we call, you know, this music scene, you know, in general.
Being that Swiss Army knife is very rewarding, but it's not easy.
It's rewarding.
Yes.
It's not. It's
You're
very
coming at it
rewarding.
from opposite ends,
Like,
but yeah.
especially on the part where you say connecting people. Like, I'll give you an example. The artist Heavy Crowns.
Shout out Heavy.
Shout out Heavy Crowns, man. He had me building with him for his Grow More Monday series.
Yeah.
And so
growing with him, you might say.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so, you know, we're in the space, we're shooting, and, you know, he has different artists that had came out. So, you know, he had Green Slime,
Yep.
MF and Mello. And those are some of the folks he had, like the Rico Shy. And, like, these are all very, like, heavy hitting artists. Like, they are very busy. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it takes a lot to get these particular people in one room. You feel me? And so, realizing just how much the community aspect is a part of the art and the music is, like, for me, that's special because, again, this is showing that, you know, while we're all cold, we're all trying to uplift each other. Versus like 5-6 years ago, that was not the case. My position in this is to help, you know, other platforms and other artists in this city really just connect. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know it's gonna sound grim, but like, if I were to die tomorrow, my Instagram would literally be like the map for whoever wanted to know who Isiah ThoughtPoet Veney is. You know what I'm saying? And for real, it's 773 to the death of me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like really highlighting these Chicago artists and really highlighting, you know, the things that influenced them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was a part of these spaces with them.
Yeah.
But understanding, like, these are the things that made these people. You know what I'm saying? Like I told you earlier, you can't mention a Brittany Carter or a Samara Truth or a Mother Nature without mentioning a Freddie Olso.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, for me, thinking about women MCs, but just MCs in general, and realizing, like, that's next level for Chicago on so many different, like, just perspectives, because again, we don't have those real hard hitting conversations about hip hop. And it's like, when we do, you know, we try to bring out the Kanye's, like Lupe's, Crucial Conflicts, and it's like, while these people are monumental, it's like, bro, it's so many other innovators and things that have, like, built us into, you know, where we're at right now.
You talking about, like, honest conversations about the state of Chicago hip hop, right? Like, I know you've just obviously interacted with so many different artists. There are specific ones where you see something and you're like, I need to, you know, connect this person, this artist with, like, a larger, you know, maybe your larger network. What kind of stands out to you in somebody's artistry where you're like, you want to go and make that decision and sort of involve yourself, basically?
My business partner had this thing when we did the Lyrical Lab where we had this 15-second rule. And because we would listen on average, like, to like 50, maybe 60 songs a day when we were doing the Lyrical Lab. And so
and that's having gotten, you know, submissions and all of that, and also just keeping up with new music and all that. Like, that's like, oh, listening to songs doesn't sound like it would be work, but it's like, if you really, you know, want to give them your attention, then that can take a while. That can take a while. It
definitely can be. And so I think what we learned, or what she taught me, was if I don't hear something in 15 seconds, I'm skipping it. And at first I used to be like, oh no, that's mean. Like, we can't, you know, do the artist like that. And I think unconsciously I've lived by that since then. Really building into something that's not mid, that's not, like, ordinary. Yeah.
No, yeah, but
like,
that's right.
I think that
that's
truly,
right.
at the end of the day, is like what excites me when I think about not even just that, but like then I start thinking about like the artists that could collab together.
Yeah.
Right. So like and I'm hella name dropping,
I love
like,
getting those ideas in my head, though.
Like for example, like Shanae, Mosley, you know what I'm saying? I told you she's building with Zero Fatigue.
Yep.
Her and Jazz Star just got done building for her new EP that's gonna be coming out pretty soon. And that's just so monumental because of everything that she's doing.
Yeah.
But Jazz Star, like I said, like she was just on the front cover of the Chicago Reader. You feel me? And it's like she's building up her momentum, and again, it's all just based off of generic, just like artistry. Like it's based off of people just generically being themselves. You know what I'm saying? They ain't trying to be nothing else, and it represents Chicago. Even when I hear certain things from artists, and I'm like, you could tune that up a bit. You could tune that up a bit. Like the fact that they trust me, because they could just write me off. They could be like,
it doesn't matter how long. It doesn't matter how long you've been listening to shit either. It's like,
you know what I mean. So it's just like, the fact that they even trust my creative critique.
That's always a blessing. But 15 seconds. That's the window you got to impress.
Real talk though. Real talk.
The Thought Poet. So you talked a bit about there was like the protests to save Chicago State back in 2015. You were also very active in the summer of 2020, protests against police brutality, right? Whereas, of course, just generally like Chicago hip hop and R&B and plenty of other genres, right, speak on the Black experience in general, and that sort of by default lends itself to activism, specifically in regards to racial justice, but. Where would you say, like, your interest in specifically trying to, like, go out to those protests and cover them and participate in them really started? Was it a moment where you felt like you personally needed to go and take action?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it was in the same demeanor that I fell in love with the city's music scene. I kind of just went to an event. And I think this event particularly was I think it was 2015. This was Black Youth Project 100's first City Hall sit-in.
Yep.
And so I was working at the Film Museum on an internship at the time. And so I kind of just told my boss, like, yeah, I'm leaving. I ain't coming back. I'm finna go to the sit-in. And she was cool with it. You know what I mean? Like a little white lady. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Allison.
What you gonna do, Allison?
So, like, we went, and, like, I think what was cool for me at the time was when I went to the sit-in, and again, this is not, at the time, the music community and the organizing community or activism community in Chicago were two separate things at the time. And so when I went there, I'm seeing Rick Wilson, you know what I'm saying? I'm seeing No Name, I'm seeing Saba, I'm seeing all of these people that, I'm going to Young Chicago Author open mics with, and I'm like, oh, damn, like we here, you know what I'm saying? We posted, you know what I'm saying? And so not only was it for the right reason, but it also just felt right. And so, that's when I really started to learn more about, being a cis hetero identified Black man and like realizing like, how not to take up space negatively, when it comes to uplifting, Black and brown, LGBTQ folks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But more importantly, like understanding how much, again, the music was slowly being integrated, you know what I'm saying? So like, realizing that, every time I was doing a protest or organizing, I was building with individuals that, are in this organizing and music community. And when 2020 hit, a lot of the folks that were really at the forefront weren't at the forefront anymore as far as organizing. The older organizers or the OG organizers or just organizers in general were not around. And so the youth of the city, they were in so much need of like real guidance as far as like how to do these protests and how to organize them. When Good Kids Bad City reached out to me and asked me could I help them with the jail support for Mohawk Johnson.
Yeah.
That was like really when I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just keep working. You know what I mean? Because like at that time when I got arrested, I wasn't even shooting. Like I had actually put my camera down because like I had head injuries. I had police like crank calling my phone. I just was not in a mood to be around anybody. But like it was the youth that really made me remember like, yo, like we need you to like take up this space because that's what you've been doing. And I think that's the most interesting part about organizing is like being willing to learn and being willing to positively take up space when necessary. That's what really led me and still leads me to helping and organizing in this city. This city needs people that will help uplift those stories. You know what I'm saying? Really let people know like these spaces, these individuals, like we exist. And a lot of people aren't gonna do that work. And I realized that it has fallen on me to continue really telling those stories. The folks that are trying to tell these stories, there aren't a lot of them, and a lot of them are not moving in love and moving in community.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you feel like you had to learn how to move in love and community?
oh my God, yes. Like
you talked about being hard-headed a little bit earlier.
I got a line in my words that says, "This city taught me how to be the bigger person," and I said that because like as much as I've built in this city, I've also been taken advantage of. You know what I'm saying? So like not getting my credit for, you know, shooting certain photos, or, you know, when certain organizations would be like, yeah, we're gonna use your photos, and not give me any credit or something like that. And these moments were very crucial to me because the entire time frame that I was working on the lyrical lab up until I think like 2015, 2016, I was homeless for the majority of that time. And so for me, you know, getting a credit on social media for my work at that moment, that was do or die, because I'm like, all right, people are at least seeing what I can do, or whatever like that. Like I didn't just spend.
You don't know what that could lead to.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't just spend my last $10 to get a 1-day bus pass, you know, and I ain't got no money for the rest of the week for nothing. You know what I mean? And so, realizing just how important my work is, but also realizing like this is something that no one's asking for, but people need it, right? And so I think I really had to process that. Interestingly enough, every time, even this year, where I'll just be like, man, fuck this shit. I ain't finna do this shit no more. Like, ain't nobody really rocking with what I'm doing. Like, every time I have those moments, like God will literally show me signs where it's like, no, what you're doing is so necessary. You won't even realize it until years later yourself.
Yeah. So. It's like a lot of work I feel like has to happen in silence sometimes before you can really establish yourself as like a go-to for certain things, or, you know, even just like for stuff to be acknowledged the way you want it to. But so that's why it's like, I feel like with the work that you do, you know, it's like you would have stopped long ago if it was just about like people crediting the name and stuff like that. A photo credit is a little bit different, but more so like that behind the scenes work that you talk about, being able to influence the direction of like a song and bring people together and something like that. What do you have coming up, you know, 2023? Where's your head at with like maybe stuff you want to accomplish going forward, or just things that you're going to be seeing through and all of that?
Man, so I'm definitely working on a lot of projects with a lot of artists. Renzel right now, he actually is going to be launching his studio at the end of this month.
Oh, sweet.
Which is going to be really dope. So I've been building with him and his team a lot. I don't know if you know Louis Marks.
Yeah, I definitely heard the name.
So he's gonna
Matter of fact, it was a Heavy Crown song. I think he name drops Louis Marks, but I've just been thinking of him the whole interview because he had that one song.
Locks, like.
He had that one song that's like he names like 7 homies of his in like 30 seconds. It's like, man, he just made the whole verse like shouting out and made it sound, you know, smooth too. Like, shout out Heavy, man.
Yeah,
that's
for real, a real vessel for the community. But I'm working with Louis Marks in the new year. Gonna be building with Rico Shy, Shy Tulani, Shanae Mosley, Jazz Star, Laura Haiti. He's coming out with another compilation tape real soon. Gonna be building with Mother Nature again real soon. Trying to think who else am I building with. So many folks. I don't know if you know Real Cash.
Real Cash, man. I should too.
He definitely, you like, bro is really connected. Like, John Monopoly is actually building
tight
with bro, real tight. So, building with him. Building with Stock Marley. I'm real excited about that. Definitely building more into the open mic series we have. In the Land, an Inglewood open mic.
In the Land. So when did that start? How long has it been going?
Funny enough, it started in April of this year. So Heavy Crowns was our first feature actually. That was actually the day we shot the Whole Lot of Seeds cover.
Hey, okay.
So right before the open mic, we shot the cover for that shit. But yeah, the open mic is really just another platform for folks, you know, in the community, but specifically Inglewood, to just come out and be present. You know what I'm saying? To like polish their craft, build into their art, and just know that it's in a safe space. So we have a lot of really dope things coming up with that, like some fundraiser galleries.
Sweet.
I have some solo exhibitions coming up.
So that's like exhibitions of your photography and all that?
Yeah.
Sweet.
But this is gonna be me showcasing the community and also the artistry. So I'm gonna be really highlighting a lot of artists that I've been building with, and also just really just like reflecting on Chicago nostalgia and like realizing that, you know, this history is like super important, and it's helping us build into our future. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's definitely finna be a lot of my projects moving forward in the next year, and in the next couple of months. So yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. Man.
Yeah, I'm definitely here for it. I'm definitely here for it.
Here for the long haul, for sure. In the early 2010s, you know, with your platform, you know, you had the shows going on and shit. You had blog write-ups going on. Is there like, do you have a desire to like throw stuff again? You know, I feel like it kind of like it's manifesting in ways like kind of more community driven, like an open mic and all that. But yeah, do you want to get back out there and like throw those shows now that you've seen all of those kind of OGs like grow and blossom? Really?
Absolutely. And I think I want to do it not just because I want to uplift the OGs, but I also want to make sure again that the little homies, the newer artists that are coming into, you know, this scene, like they're realizing like these things are gonna stick around. The future of this city is really being dictated by what's happening right now.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like there was a time where people really was like going around saying like, yeah, like, you know, ain't nobody really got on since Chance the Rapper or Mick Jenkins or Hurt Everybody. And it's like, you know, that's not true. You know what I'm saying? So many artists, there are so many just hungry, you know, spirits in this city that are like fighting every day to get their art out. And if the WGCIs, if the Fake Sure Drives, if the Lyrical Lemonades, if they're not gonna acknowledge this Chicago artist community in its entirety, it's up to us to really be able to make sure that these voices are being uplifted. So I was talking to Vicky Street and Kid Breeze not too long ago, and you know, me and Vicky Street, we go back. You know what I'm saying? Like I've known Vicky Street before she was even like MCing, like when she was just hosting events, and we both were talking about how, you know, this scene and the experiences we've had and the people we've met in this scene, like those experiences are so special because like when we were homeless, when we didn't have anything, those memories like kept us alive. You know what I mean? And it's like, I know for me, really helping to build out this community where like artists, young or old or like whatever, are able to continue building these experiences. Like that's important. You know what I'm saying? Like you being able to say, yeah, I went to Shuba's or Reggie's or, you know, Sub T and I saw this amazing event or this artist or whatever. Like that's how Chicago gets its recognition. And it's like,
I already feel like I'm living through history.
You know what I mean? Like
as
I
it
remember
happens.
you know what I mean? Like there was a time where like I truly thought like the experiences and the history I know about this art in this city didn't mean anything. And I feel like every single day, every moment that I'm like putting my heart into this art shit, I'm being proven wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy about that.
Like we've been saying, you know, it's not a lot of people that are really dedicating that time towards the improvement of like people at their early stages and just going purely off of talent and intuition. Like,
what is your advice, like, seeing that you've lived through all of these kind of different waves of like Chicago shit? Like I was like 12 when Chief Keef came out, and I remember listening to him at like recess type shit. So being that you lived through that, what's your advice to us, like, as kind of the next wave of people that are like pushing the culture and shit like that?
Man, I would say my advice to the next wave of folks that are like building into platforms to help artists get their shit off. I honestly say just be authentically you. Like just be you as much as possible and just really stand on the fact that you really love doing this shit. You know what I'm saying? And of course, everybody wants to get paid. Everybody wants to, be recognized. But I almost feel like if you can't sit in a room and go on SoundCloud or Spotify and just play a list of nothing but Chicago artists for like an hour, you ain't really in it. You know what I mean? Your heart's not really in it. And I only say that because I do that so much. Like I literally get up in the morning, light a blunt, and I'm playing Chicago music. You know what I'm saying? I'm playing some old school Martin Sky and Femdot or something. Man. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just going through the books and I'm just like, man, like I'm not even like wishing this was like a now sound or nothing like that, but I'm more so just understanding how beautiful this moment was type shit, right? And I'm realizing like I really was in it. So it's like even knowing or hearing you say like, yo, like I was 12 when Chief Keef was like out, it's like, God damn, like that that's an interesting perspective. You feel me?
I was right there.
Like,
I was the same.
You know what I mean? So
it's
just like for me it's like knowing that I experienced a lot of these things and realizing like, more and more people are excited to build into what I see is like, for me, that makes me happy because it's like other people are able to acknowledge what I know exists by just existing.
That open mic that you just spoken on a little while back, that's kind of a place where people can come together and feel safe. Where is that for you in the city in general? Maybe now, maybe where it used to be, and where can you go in the city physically and you're like, I feel safe, I feel protected?
I would say a lot of spaces that I try to frequent are spaces like the Breathing Room. So if you ever been to the Breathing Room, it's literally a space that has so much transformative restorative justice practices, a lot of like programming around like arts and mutual aid. I would definitely say Young Chicago Authors. Their open mics. They've been working so hard to really just like reprogram themselves after certain people step down. And so I feel like they've definitely become once again a safe haven for folks. Trying to think. Honestly, bro, like I said before, I think it's also just a matter of like how you figure or what you think creating a safe haven is. Because I would say being in Inglewood is a real safe haven just because of everything that goes on in Inglewood, but everything that we're trying to do for the south and west sides of the city, you know what I'm saying? In general.
We spoke on the shows you threw at that YMCA that ended up closing down out south. And when I think of like venues out south right now, I think of, the Promontory, I think of the Silver Room. Reggie's is sort of near south. But honestly, I know there are more, and but they aren't coming to mind at this point. So like, where are some spots, that you like, are seeing that kind of popped up? That it's like, oh, now people really can go to shows that south. Oh, and let me not forget Fortune House.
It's funny.
On Cottage Grove.
I was just gonna lead off with them. And they've been going crazy, a lot lately. Shout out to Sinite and all of them building with them over there. Like it's so many that are being built out right now, right? And I think that's the other thing is like it's so much opportunity for more spaces to be manifested, right? Because like that is still something that people are figuring out when it comes to being out south is like, creating venues and creating spaces, you know what I'm saying, just for artistry to exist. Trap House Chicago out west.
Yep.
Their new space is amazing.
I know the Thinkers do a lot of collaborative stuff with them.
Definitely. Imagine Inglewood If, their entire Inglewood Peace Campus. Definitely a safe space and a space to do things at.
Healthy Hood is another one.
Definitely Healthy Hood. Yeah, man, they probably one of the best spaces to do something for real, just because of what they represent, but also like how they move as well. So
yeah. So it is, there really is. When you think of all those names, like that's stuff that maybe wasn't there prior. So it speaks to like the potential and just like people fulfilling their visions and continuing like that growth, just create as many of those safe spaces as possible.
If there's like a kid that's like trying to get started into like Chicago hip hop and like even somebody that's like the same age I was when I got into like Chief Keef and Lil Flo and shit like that, where would you tell them to start?
Yeah, let's get the starter pack.
That's a dope question. I would say if you are a young person and you really want to start getting into Chicago music, I would truly say just start following like the homies. You know what I'm saying? Like definitely get into these platforms, so real ones. Definitely get into your platform. But I think more importantly, just really start trying to get more incorporated into community. I feel like that for me is how I really started peeping more artists. So like Samira Truth, Sanite, Sonny, or everyone hates Sonny. Like I really started building or learning more about them by just doing my organizing. You know what I'm saying? And so I think the way the city works now is like you can see, or go to an event, you know what I'm saying, and see the lineup, and like if you look at those artists, you'll be able to find more of those artists. But I would say, get prepared for my website on Social Aesthetics. You know what I'm saying? You can definitely find music there. But I think more importantly, I think truly go where you see other folks are going as far as a safe haven in this city. Especially coming into it at a young age. And don't be afraid to, like try different sounds in the city as far as who you want to listen to. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you love drill, you know what I'm saying, and you love Afro beats, it's like, be okay with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, look for artists, because I'm telling you, they're here. You know what I'm saying? You can find a Spenzo and find a Shai Tulani, in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? And, like, their music is different, but it's completely the same because it's all uplifting Chicago. I would say just really be adamant about, going to different events, learning different people, and just not being afraid to go to an event by yourself.
Yeah,
that was
huge.
something that I think for me, if I stayed in my fear of like, I guess wanting someone to go with me to like these concerts or music scene events, I probably would have never accomplished anything of what I've done even now, just because a lot of people aren't gonna get it. And I think as a kid coming into this music, Chicago music particularly, a lot of people are gonna look at you like, what? Like, it's so many other people you could be listening to. Ooh. So it's like, if you really understand how Chicago music is special at that age, it's like by the time you get my age, and I ain't even that old, but like you really gonna be able to like tell people like, yo, like Chicago where it's at. Period, point blank.
All right, I want to give the last minute or so to you to just say whatever you feel like we may have missed in this interview. I know it's stories that could go on hours and hours, but mainly like some specific stuff where we can find you, how we can support you.
So you can follow me on Instagram, ThoughtPoet77. You can follow me Facebook, Isiah ThoughtPoet Veney. Twitter, Thought_Poet77. I would just say, if anything, just truly, like, if you care about Chicago, just keep watching how we move. Like, I can't put it no other way than that. Like, if you really surprised at what we've done so far, y'all ain't seen nothing yet. It's straight like that.
Man. Isiah, ThoughtPoet Veney.
Appreciate it.
For real ones, I've been Ben Moskow. To my left is Reina Danzy coming in, asking a couple questions. Really appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you made it this far, make sure to check out all of our interviews if you somehow have that much time. Always doing cool stuff over here, having on cool guests, telling cool stories. So thank you. Signing off.